It's a big weekend of sport and footy particularly. It's great to have this segment where you can just get all your thoughts about the game out. You can listen to Bucks and Tim and you can have your questions. And by 9 o'clock, well, you'll be ready for Jared and everyone else. But hopefully you've got it out of your system and you've expunged everything you needed to and absorbed everything else.
We're like the Metamucil of footy, aren't we?
That's it. If you're clogged up with footy, watch us clean you out of here.
Thanks for that preview, Gary. I'm pulling Jack Ginnivan up to the top, given that we just spoke about him, but he is loving the moment and he is raw and ready. Now, you come from a position of power when you have a performance like he did yesterday. He's kicked 11 goals for the season, but what I love about him is he handles the moment. He doesn't mind it when people give their judgments of him because he's got a pretty strong sense of who he is. And he's a real competitor and he's a gamer. So when the game's on the line or when he needs to find an extra 5 metres on a set shot or he needs to kick a goal, as he did yesterday, he nails it. So great effort.
I hope he doesn't, and not that he'd be listening this morning, but I don't want him to sense that he has this siege mentality where the whole footy world's out to get him. I hope
they're not. They're not.
That's the message I want to say here.
Yep.
Of course, there'll be, the supporters will boo because that's what happens, and he would understand that. But I hope the young man doesn't think for a second that us old crusty ex-footballers who talk about stuff in the media are sitting there condemning him because that's not. There are some that don't agree with the ways, and that's okay. Everyone's entitled, but I would think the vast majority are enjoying what he's doing.
Bucks, what are his attributes? Let's talk about him as a footballer as opposed to the other parts to all this.
Well, he's a very crafty player. He knows exactly where the goals are. Quick?
Is he quick?
No, he's not quick. He's a very hard worker. He's constant movement.
Yep.
And he picks up what's going to happen 2 or 3 possessions down the track quicker than most. And then he positions himself really well against his specific defender or finds dangerous space in the front half. So the ball carrier, when he raises his eyes, Jack is an option for him.
Okay, so that's stuff that you can't necessarily teach. I mean, some players have an instinct for being able to find themselves in the right place at the right time.
He kicked 100 goals in the under-12s, which we were talking about off air.
You've been watching him for a while.
Yeah, we've got an extensive recruiting arm, but no, he's always loved kicking goals. It's something that has become him. I can't see him becoming a midfield player, although he's got the freedom to develop and express himself as he wishes. But he's doing what he's always dreamed of doing as a kid, and he loves the game and he loves the contest. So I think they're to be celebrated.
Do you love Callum Mills?
I love Callum Mills, and this is number 2. Thanks for the lead-in on that. Is Callum Mills tiptoeing to the top echelon of players in the competition?
I'm privileged because I posed the same question. We talk about midfielders last night on the couch, guys that go out and get 50, 40, whatever. There are a few that can do what Callum Mills does, which has to put him in the argument or the debate or conversation in terms of the best midfielders in the comp.
The best or the most valuable?
Well, either. Most valuable because he can do both.
What's the difference? What's the difference, Tim?
Well, there's a difference between somebody like a Petrarca who can just win a game because of what he does, an extraction of ball around contest and in an offensive sense. And I think they're the best. Yeah. And then there's somebody like a Callum Mills who can't necessarily do that part, but they can go to somebody, shut them down, and then win beast-type balls inside as well.
Here's a question for you two. So what's more valuable? As a coach, both former coaches, would you have the pure offensive, and Christian works hard. Let's say Dusty. Dusty is not renowned for a defensive mindset, nor should he, because we know what he is. Or a Callum Mills who is 80% of what Dusty is offensively, but he's 50 or 60% more of what Dusty is defensively.
Well, what do you want? Do you want a team that actually wins finals and wins premierships, or do you just want a team that you play in?
Well, I know in the space of a team structure, but all right, you're putting the team together. Who are you taking?
Well, you take the rounded player. You take the well-rounded player.
So you take Mills ahead of Martin.
Well, no, you don't. You take.
Well, he's the rounded player.
Yes, but Dusty Martin has developed in a role that has been prescribed for him by the coaches, and it is bringing his best assets to the
It's hard to compare, I understand that. But in broader terms, like Dusty, to use the modern, he's a unicorn, so Dusty's out there.
Yeah.
So
He won Richmond 3 grand finals pretty much.
That's
Dusty.
right, but not many can do that.
That's
So-
right, but that's
I
if you're
think-
talking about Dusty,
Well,
or you're talking about taking
Dusty's
Mills.
a bad example.
Yeah, but I'm still
think-
taking Petrarca ahead of Callum Mills.
I
too.
think this is
Oh,
where
yeah.
I think this is where player v player comparisons are flawed because you've actually got to compare the systems that they're a part of as well. So the system that Callum Mills is a part of, he suits as well as anyone does. He cut his teeth as a halfback.
Yeah.
So pick 3 in 2015. Cut his teeth as a halfback. Took some time to come along, but then played really well in that role. He's gone into the midfield nearly unassumingly. Now picked up 37. He'll get 10 votes from the coaches today, which will take him to the top 3 and put him up next to
Cripps, Oliver,
Petrarca, and
Higgins.
the other bloke that's sneaking up there is Andrew Brayshaw.
He's on top.
Yeah, but there you go. So Callum Mills been exceptional and even highlighting the role that he did on Tom Mitchell. He's got the capacity to balance his defence and attack for a side that is going places.
No, he's fantastic. He is fantastic. And it is difficult to change midstream though too, isn't it? Like, let's not underestimate. He didn't start out playing like that yesterday.
No, but
He was asked to fulfill a role at quarter time or halfway during that first quarter. It might have been. I think it was probably a quarter time they went to and said, okay, you've now got to start playing a little bit more like this and a little bit less like that. And he's able to do that.
Well, he just played as the midfielders do in the modern game until such time as they said, now you've got to put some
Yeah,
time
but not
into
everyone can
Mitchell.
do that. Not everyone can just
Why
switch.
can't they?
Not everyone has the capacity to be able to do that because
to
that's
play
not
on-
the way they've been
I
programmed
think
over
you'll
the course of
find
their careers.
that most Sydney players are programmed to do that because they're developed the right way.
That's what they are developed in a different way, which is exactly right. And that's why they can turn a game around the way that they did against Hawthorn yesterday too, because they have been programmed over a long period of time.
Number 3, the percentage is a great guide in we've got enough data now. So 6 games in, we've got enough of a guide, and percentage is what you want to look for. The only team in the top 8 without a percentage of 100 is Carlton. The only team out of the top 8 with a percentage above 100 is the Bulldogs. I think Carlton are the most vulnerable side in the top 8.
What underpins Carlton the way they play, Bucks, do you think?
Well, everyone said that they're such a good stoppage side. They're middle of the road for scores from stoppage. So it is their stronger point to their scoring, but it's not great against the rest of the competition.
What do they need to fix then?
They need to fix their transition footy first and foremost.
Just explain what that means.
Well, they need their balance. So that when they attack, then they need to be able to defend better as a unit behind it. And when they're defending, they need to be able to move the ball with more effectiveness from the back half.
Is that easy to change midstream though?
It can
mid-season?
happen. It can happen. But right now that they've won games off the back of bursts of football from clearance, and that's why everyone sees that their clearance is strong, and aerial dominance in their forward 50.
And that's not sustainable.
Mackay, Curnow, Silvani himself, and the ruckman getting forward. It's something that can easily come and go, and we've seen that in their games.
And adopt a bit of a Swans mantra that when things go against you, as they do, and have done for a long time, and multiple goals are scored on end, to be able to do something to stop it.
Well, their defenders are holding up really well. A lot of their name players through the middle are performing well. Curnow and Mackay, I don't reckon you could get more out of the individuals at the moment. So, but then collectively, they're not really gelling over a 4-quarter performance.
So are we saying then that they still have the same problem that they had in previous seasons, even though they've changed their coach in Michael Voss?
I think what we're seeing is their best is exceptional. Their best is really good, and that's a great thing to have because you can hedge against that. All you need to do, and this is where the work has to be done by the coaching group, by the club, by the players themselves, is to continue just to bump up your average performance. And the way you do that is your low level needs to improve, and that takes time.
Well,
we can't be expecting that at this age. I think with a new coaching structure, it takes time for that to be established.
Yeah, that's the point. So Michael Voss has been lauded and rightfully so.
And they've done really well. They're 4-2.
Yeah, he's 6 weeks into his reign and still putting in place a system that hopefully will deal with those issues.
One thing I'd know is that Vossi be happy we're having this conversation because it does manage expectations in some shape or form, and people listen to you, Watso. So that's something that we
not many.
No, we will. Number 4, Essendon's forward pressure it needs to be looked at. The way they're selecting their team at the moment is a question mark. And my real query is, where is Devon Smith? Because that bloke is exactly what the team needs, and he's on the list, and he's been left out.
Devon Smith of 3 years ago is what they need.
Well,
Yeah, and Tippy.
yeah, see, Tippenwood and
Makes a big
Snelling,
difference.
and Snelling is the big one because he was a player that he was recruited out of a mid-season draft out of the SANFL at one point. Now, he gets all the way up the field and all the way back, so they're really missing him, and he's been in their top 3 in their BNF the last couple of years. They're trying to get a Guelphy, Martin, who's a young player who started the season really well, a Waterman, who's a marking player, Perkins, who's a tall midfielder who's playing forward, and then a young guy in Baldwin, and then a first game or a couple of games in Hobbs, to actually be the players that are going to be pressure forwards. Every good team across the competition has small pressure forwards. They only had 3 forward 50 tackles yesterday, and they marked the ball 17 times inside their forward 50, which is exceptional.
Yeah.
And probably, to be fair, has an impact on their ground level numbers. Because if you're marking it for that,
That's
you have
right.
52 entries and you're marking it 17 times, it reduces your ground level numbers. So we've got to put that on the table. But
3
there's
tackles.
a real dearth.
But-
There's a real
3
dearth.
tackles.
That's right. And there was a lot of pinballing
Rounds.
out of there as well, and full open field for Collingwood to operate in on the rebound too. I don't know.
You cannot defend the ground without great pressure on the ball.
That's right. And you need speed, though, too. You need players that can cover the
Freo.
ground really quickly. And
Freo.
I was going to ask you that question about Freo. That's
Yeah.
exactly what they have with their ground
Everywhere,
level players.
Wispy. They got him just last night. Did you see the
I
chase
saw it.
down tackling?
And every time they ran, you went,
That was actually, that wasn't me. That was Rui.
No, and speed is, and Essendon, they need to fix that because it.
hey, that's
it
a
is-
hard fix, though. That is a hard
is
fix,
a-
that
it
one.
is a hard
you,
fix.
You either have them or you don't have
But
them.
you actually need, and you might need players to selflessly consider, or find an attribute, but selflessly consider this is an important role for the team. Can I play it? Lastly, and it's Paddy McCartin, and this is a touchy subject, but my take on this is you choose to play the game of football. There will be contact, there will be injuries, and you choose to play a game of footy. This is going to happen. But for us to see that on the weekend was not great, even though it seems like it's panned out okay. But football is a physical game. It's a great story, and I love it. And I'm rapt that he's back after years out, and the prospect that he wasn't going to come back into the fold. But footy is just footy. It's a small part of life. Paddy McCartin is going to live for the rest of his life on the other side, and he's got plenty of things to explore, and we don't want that to be diminished or taken away, which is why we put the rules that we have in place. But it's still a very physical game, and there's going to be contact.
We know there's a 12-day protocol in place now, so you can't play for 12 days. Given history, Garry, do they look at this differently than what it might be if it was another player under this?
I think they'd be diligent in every single case, and they take into consideration all the circumstances. He is as of last night, and
Yep. I know your connection to
He's
him.
absolutely fine in terms of where he sits.
Yep.
He was filthy that he wasn't allowed to be back on. Absolutely right decision made by the Sydney Swans to keep him off because he wasn't able to produce a couple of answers in the concussion test,
Yep.
which he says he probably couldn't remember them anyway, given a good day. But it's a good decision to get him off, and I don't think missing a game is going to be the end of the world for Paddy. This
No,
week.
it's going to be perfect for him, and I think that there's a lot that we don't know about this as well. Of
course. Yeah, we talk about it a
in
lot
the
here.
end, if you don't know, but you've got to make a decision on the benefit of doubt, you're going to err on caution's side, and that's important for him, but important for the way that we set up these.
Well,
concussion
externally, it's
protocols.
important for him. For him, he detests the fact that we talk about it, and this is why he gets so frustrated.
And he doesn't want it to be a narrative.
Doesn't want it to be a big deal. and all that
But
stuff.
we've all been on the journey with him.
No,
Everyone
that-
in the football
and,
world
hey,
has been. And
no.
we're all barracking for
No,
it.
no,
That's why
all-
we're talking about
and
it.
that's all reasonable. But in his mind, he's going, "Oh, here we go again. I'm going to have." And the commentary, which was fine because Kingy and Dermot don't
Yep.
know, they start talking, "Oh, it's sad and it's this and oh, we're with you," and, which is beautiful. And Paddy's going, "No, it's just knocking the head, big deal."
Yeah.
And that's where his head's at. We're going to get a break. Buck stops here. Jack Ginnivan, Callum Mills, percentage being a great measurement. Essendon's forward pressure. Paddy McCartin. There's a whole host of other topics we'll get through as well Join us, 1300 736 736. Fire away any thoughts you may have had after a big weekend of footy.